Deep water culture might have fallen out of favor, but some growers are still crushing it with this method. So today we're going to dive in and figure out why. Come on, but first, before we do, today's video is brought to you by Real Grow Lab. If you want to connect with the best growers from all over the world, get tips and tricks on how to grow the dankest plants possible, and not have to worry about the censorship we get from YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, go check out realgrowlab.com. Get all kinds of great Grow Talk Q&A, plus see all the stuff YouTube won't let me show you in these videos. Sign up and join our growing community over at realgrowlab.com. Or download the app at the Apple or Android App Store. Now let's get back to today's video. Come on, High C, want to get into some deep water culture?
Not really. Guilty admission, deep water culture was what kept me from growing because it looked like a science experiment. It looked crazy difficult and it just intimidated me. So it was one of the reasons that I waited so long to really dive into growing.
I call it a dragster. If you've got everything going right, oh my God, the performance, just the growth rate is unbelievable.
But you have to get everything dialed in.
Yeah,
right?
You ever known a dragster to be reliable?
No.
Don't they last about 8 seconds?
Yeah, I've had friends that buy high performance cars and they're always in the shop.
Yeah. So anyway, but if you get it dialed in right, it's impressive, man.
Okay, so you haven't grown deep water culture in a long time, though. You've told me on previous videos.
No, I haven't. If you want to see my last venture, I'm sorry, it was my fake brother Tripp's last venture. Just Google busting a grow house. Yeah, that was a nice deep water culture setup. I had nothing to do with. That was actually a nice guy, Kenny, but he alone had built a beautiful 99 plant deep water culture system. It was rocking. Every 30 days, you'd be pulling a 8 light room out of it. So just sick.
Okay. So why the pivot back to talking about deep water culture?
Because I was just in Missouri. I went to this festival at the Common Fairgrounds. I think I said it right. And, it's a very different culture than it is in Colorado. It's a little bit of a newer kind of grow culture. Mm-hmm. And they're doing DWC, or at least some of the guys that I was talking to, and this guy I was talking to had very, very good quality weed. And I said, how'd you do it? And deep water culture. And I was kind of, well, that's kind of, something, a blast from the past for me.
Okay, so let's kind of get into why some growers are still rocking the DWC.
Yeah, we already kind of hit on this, but it's the fastest production system that I know of. And I've been growing weed for, I don't know how many years, how many decades. But yeah, deep water culture is high performance. What are we trying to do? We've been talking about this for a while. The roots need oxygen, right? They need a right mix of water and oxygen. We talk about being in the Goldilocks zone when we're in soil or cocoa. Deep water culture is always in that Goldilocks zone because there's no media. So you have to keep it perfect inside those containers for them to live, for them to thrive. So by doing that, you are giving them the exact moisture. It's always the exact moisture with the exact amount of nutrients it needs. And the growth rate is unbelievable.
And the nutrients, usually they're feeding them in like a reservoir and the nutrients just hit the roots right away.
Yeah, you have, it has to be less than 2 inches. Same theory with my real buckets. You don't want to have a bunch of water in the bottom. You can have a little bit more than 2 inches in deep water culture, I shouldn't say. But the idea is you have air stones. I used to have 2 air stones per bucket and 199 buckets. So that's a lot of air stones. And then you would have to keep oxygen in those roots. So you'd have to bubble those, the bottom of each bucket. I had 2 air stones in each bucket. So yeah, it's a lot of work. Of course, those air stones sitting in nutrient get clogged up. I used to have air stone washing day where I take 35% hydrogen peroxide and I would wash the air stones. So it is a lot of unnatural machines and unnatural human intervention that has to go along with this system. I used to have a 2 horsepower regenerative blower, which is just this giant reverse vacuum that sounds like a jet engine, runs all day and powers those 200 air stones. So you don't have, 100 or 200 different little air pumps you're tripping over. So this stuff, of course, it required 2 inches of plumbing pipe, of PVC pipe throughout the whole thing. It was, I forgot about the chiller that I needed for the 300-gallon reservoir because water holds air at a very specific temperature. I think 68 degrees is the perfect temperature for the water to be as oxygenated as it can be. So you now have to keep that water. You can't have the water if your grow room is 78. We were using HPS back then. Well, you can't have 78-degree water in the bottom of your bucket. It doesn't hold enough oxygen. So there was a lot of moving parts, which is why I got away from it. When I came to Colorado, by the way, that was when I thought you treated growing cannabis like a science experiment, like a business system. Once I learned that it's a plant and that if you can grow good tomatoes, if you can grow good peppers, that's great practice for growing great cannabis. Then I changed my mindset when I came to Colorado. The guy laughed at me at the grow store and it's like, dude, just get a 10-gallon smart pot, 10 gallons a can of cocoa and can of A and B, and there you go. And I felt dumb once I did that and had success.
But you're saying if you can get it dialed in, if you know what you're doing, you can crank out cannabis with this method.
Yes. I did have somebody living there. That was just their sole job. Shout out to you, nice guy, Kenny. You know, talk about a good guy for that, man. Clean, all right, like his conscience.
All right.
But seriously, man, you need to have somebody there if you're running a large system or even a small system. One of the things we're talking about on the Dude Grows show, I think we this week or maybe it's next week, but it's about how to go on vacation and leave your grow on vacation.
Not happening with deep water culture.
I mean, maybe, but you better say a prayer. You better be religious, man.
Okay, so besides just the ability to have your grow on turbocharge,
right?
What are some of the other benefits of deep water culture?
It is low pro. I mean, there's no soil, man.
Oh, so you don't have a big mound of soil out in front of your house afterwards?
Most of the time you have a small net cup, maybe a 5-inch net cup or net pot they call them, that is filled with little, what do they call those, the hydroton balls. And then everything else is roots. You're literally in a true deep water culture. You're suspending the plant in this pot. It is growing down into the water. What's really doing the work is the bubbles. As the bubbles are, as the air stones are making bubbles, that's what's hitting the roots. Think about how much air is in those bubbles that explode and hit the roots. And by the way, they do this all the time. You can get yourself an aero cloner, which is essentially a deep water culture cloner. Very similar anyhow, same concept. You're using mist to grow the roots.
Okay, so less, or I guess no soil, no big mounds of soil given away that you got to grow going on.
Yes, 99 plants and trying to dump out 99 5-gallon root balls is a pain in the butt, man.
And you mentioned cleanliness. You said Kenny kept it clean.
Yes.
Sometimes my grow gets a little bit messy, especially I got soil, I got recharge splashing all over the place.
Sure. Yeah, compared to soil, it's a ton. It's so much more clean. Literally, you're dumping the root ball out, and then you're washing, a little bit, a 5-inch net pot. I was cheap. I would wash the lava rock and use it again. Yeah, but literally, there's very little to dispose of except for these root balls. And by the way, when you have a grow that has absolutely no dirt or cocoa, yes, it is easy to keep it very clean if that's what you want.
Okay. Let's talk about the yields.
Yes.
You said it's fast yielding, but I've also heard that you can get massive yields growing deep water culture.
It is. I like to call it a turbocharger. I mean, you literally just have so much air and water at the perfect ratio, at the perfect temperature, is constantly just direct access to the roots, feeding them this low nutrient water. So it's able to just take what it needs. There's no dry back. There's no Goldilocks zone. It is always in this Goldilocks zone, and it is always just pulling water and nutrients up into its leaves. You'll never see more transpiration. You'll have to get yourself a dehumidifier because it is just pulling that water and nutrient up, and there's no faster way of growing when it's dialed in.
Okay, so here's the one objection now that I know a little bit more about growing.
Sure.
We talked about this a little bit. Recharge. I love recharge because it gives me those richer, fuller terpene profiles. But I've heard people say that they can't use microbes or recharge inside of deep water culture.
It's very difficult, yeah, because the microbes they want to live in that area, either in the soil or that area where the soil meets the roots, and there's shelter in that soil. Now there's no shelter whatsoever. They're being just blasted with this, oxygen-rich water, which it's great, but you have no home. You have no place to colonize or to anchor. So it does not work well. Or at least the classic aerobic microbes that we like don't work well in deep water culture. At least that's my experience.
So if I'm growing these big giant buds, but I'm not able to get microbes in there, does that affect the flavor of the cannabis?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why you'll hear deep water culture. There's a wrap on it that it doesn't have the back end, that it doesn't have those earthy terps. It's got, you can get those, ready, monoterpenes. You can get like the citrus and the fruity stuff and the lemon stuff, but those earthy sesquiterpenes, man. Now, those earthy terpenes, they come on at the end, and they come on because of micronutrients. All the terpenes come on because of micronutrients. So getting those in there is a lot easier when you have something like cocoa and a rhizosphere and a bunch of microbes working to mine those and bring them to the root zone. So yeah, that's kind of the wrap why we think anything with a real media, cocoa, soil, anything that you can get microbial activity into will give you a bit better flavor than deep water culture. With that being said, I just tasted some great deep water culture weed last week. Hey, but that's just my 2 cents in the matter. Come on, but what about you? Do you still run deep water culture? Or is it too much of a headache? Let me know in the comments. Come on, if you like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Talk about this one with another grower you know, and check out the other couple videos YouTube's recommending. I sure think you'll dig them.